So I am asked to speak on interpreting truth through migrant religious women's story in the US. And this topic resonates with my recent book, which Kevin mentioned, titled The Religious Women as Global Migrants to the US, Critical Conversations about Spirituality, Mental Health, and Vocational Identities. Fortunately, I have a few copies if you want to pick the copy and I can autograph it. If not, you can get it on Amazon also. And this is a result of my research work, my thesis, my doctoral research work here at CTU. And this research gathered stories of a few consecrated women, consecrated life women from different congregations who were born outside of the US, telling their vocational stories and living in their various congregations as minority sisters. I have a few, okay, I've said that. The idea of this topic arose from our annual retreat gathering, where we realized that among 17 sisters in that retreat one year, about 13 of us were born outside of the US. This is always an opportunity where we share our experiences as contemporary sisters on our religious call together. So as I continued with my practical theology, my practical theology studies, my encounters with my global migrant sisters, which is a word I would say I coined as I continued to research on this work, stayed on with me. And as I prayed on my topic, I decided to delve more into it. And that's the result of it. So I begin with a question, what does it mean to interpret difficult truth through lived, communal, and cross-cultural religious experience? I begin this with telling our stories. And I began with telling our stories because as we met as sisters, we always shared stories about what it means for us coming from different parts of the world and living together. And in those stories, I realized that the role of narrative in consecrated life and leadership took uppermost part in us. Consecrated life stories is seen as a sacred test. It begins first by telling our stories. It begins by creating a sacred space where the stories would be held. It begins by nurturing a good environment where trust is built to tell, share, and to be listened to. As women religious, and also male religious, because I realized that even though my research was more on women, the religious consecrated life also, there's this global call that men also are becoming part of that. There is this mixture from different parts of the world in men religious too. So I include you, my brothers, even though you'll be hearing more women, but I include you. So as religious, and especially as migrant sisters, connecting with other sisters in spaces such as retreats, setting out time to be with each other gives us time to listen and interpret our truths, the hard realities of our lives as minorities living in this time. And share stories between immigrant sisters helps us to be vessels of resilience in those difficult situations. For instance, missing our family. We talk about missing our families, the longings we have to be with our families of origin during times and when we are misunderstood, living out our carried cultural heritage and other cultures, which is the dominant culture that we live in. There is that silence that stays with us at those moments when we feel very much misunderstood or not being heard. The role of narrative in consecrated life helps leadership shaped by positions, but by experience and presence. It helps shape and create an understanding of the order, the capital O, interpreting the difficult truths to build a stronger community of sisters. Another area I looked at this is navigating emotions in the stories of migrant religious sisters. We see that in the picture I have here. You can see some people holding each other, holding hands. You can see people sitting comfortably. And these are ways that people can express their emotions. So navigating emotions in interpreting hard truths demand clinical listening as contemplative presence. I also will be talking a lot about listening. I heard that in the past and the last two presenters, and listening also is a very big skill. It's a good listening skill. It's not just sitting and listening to a sister narrate her story, but it's, as we see in this picture, holding each other's story to say, I hear you, even without understanding fully what you have heard. It means being present in the moment, a reassuring presence to the storyteller without interruption. This is how we help interpret that hard truth at the moment. It means staying in silence if and when needed to accompany one another. When we listen to others' story, we become guests and others become hosts, as Sister Sophia Park said this morning. Navigating emotions in our hard truth means holding pain, ambiguity, and joy in safe and spiritual space. As a psychotherapist and practical theologian, navigating emotions in interpreting our hard truths presents the opportunity of theological reflection in therapy rooms, discerning the spirit in others' stories, helping a sister who comes into therapy to understand that she has just gone through in sharing communal space with others in community as an immigrant to the US or to the other parts of the world as it is. Yes, I based my story here in the US, but Global Sisterhood, it's happening everywhere in the world. Some themes that emerge in those situations where we sit together and talk, or where I sit with a sister and talk as a therapist. Some of the themes, one of them is the tension between belonging and identity. A sister, for instance, shared of the cultural dislocation she's experiencing being a migrant in her current ecosystem. And this dislocation comes in different ways, where, because of not understanding your culture, what you are bringing with you, you feel so not in tune with what is happening in the very location, in the very context that you're in. Another theme that emerged is in areas of mental health and racism. This was really a big area that different sisters I worked with, my co-researchers, as I call them, shared a lot of stories on issues with racism that they have faced, being brown and Black sisters in a different culture. And some of them not being dealt with personally, issues with mental health starts showing up. as they continue to live in their congregations. And as sisters, they shared their dealings within their community, and this also reflects in their ministry, because what you are at home somehow gets out in your area of work, in your professional ministry. Other themes are the themes of the role of leadership in the experience of marginality. Sisters share experience of discrimination, loneliness, abandonment, being incapable of achieving something, and being incapable of leadership positions in their community or outside in their ministry. And they are left with low leaders. They are left with how leaders assist their minority or immigrant sisters going through these tough and hard realities in answering their vocational call. And we see that even for some people, some students in school or in their ministry, because of the tension that it's going on at home. At home, I mean, is in the community. There is always that doubt, the self-doubt. Am I able to do this? Am I capable of doing this? And the implications for this situation, for the stories that the sisters carry along within themselves, it calls for compassionately interpreting the truth in sisters' stories. How do we interpret the hard truth? How do this compassionately and by encouragement help the sisters? One area that I looked at as part of the implication is that we move beyond analysis to rational truth. In interpreting this hard truth, we not only analyze the reality, but we relate with the others as ourselves. You know, what you want done to yourself, you treat the others like that, and then it comes back to you. After all, was that not one of the biblical mandates to love one another as ourselves? We are encouraged to interpret truth as emerging through accompaniment. In doing this, we recontextualize truth through accompaniment. This is helpful because we need to be aware that we could be one's truth, where one's truth could be seen as truth in another's eyes, a person coming from a different culture, it could be interpreted as something different. Hence, rethinking this truth, one finds oneself into the context that they are in, and then through accompaniment, it helps them. I have a funny story, maybe not that a funny story, but a story that I could share. A brother shared with me that when he recently arrived in a community, he was coming from a French-speaking country. And his superior, they were preparing for a function. His superior one day asked him, "Do you have pants for a formal wear?" And he answered, quickly, immediately, yes. But he literally ran out of the place, flabbergasted that his superior would be asking him that kind of question if he has pants for this formal occasion. So luckily in their community, they have somebody that accompanies new and younger brothers that are in formation. So he went straight to this person and narrated the story that just happened. So this person understood the context this brother was coming from and explained to him that pant means trouser, In their own context, it means trouser and not pants. So because he was flabbergasted that why would his superior be asking him this intimate question, publicly. And yeah, and this and this is a situation where, yes, you talk about your own context, or you talk about you say things without really understanding where the other person is coming from. So the context is different. Also, it's his accompanying brother that helped to explain the reality, explain the situation, that this is what is meant. So in accompanying one another, it helps to understand where this person is coming from. When they say something, is this what they mean? I know in my practice, I do ask people sometimes, what do you actually mean by this? Sometimes people look at me, you mean you don't know what that means? Then I will explain, I wasn't born in this country. So there are things that you know as a child, as a youth growing up, and I don't know it. So please, just take it like, it might sound to you like it's a stupid question, but please explain that to me so that I will understand where you're coming from. Another aspect or the implication is acknowledging and taking action as an act of justice and theological discernment. As leaders in our own role or in our own situation, it's very encouraging to continue to acknowledge one another, to act justly to one another, and to know that, you don't know it all, that being in this your space is different from somebody who has come from a different space. And so when somebody says something, you try to understand, you take, I think it's an act of justice to one another, trying to acknowledge where this person's perspective. And I'll finish with a call of action, a few questions that I wrote down for call of action. How are we being called to receive and accompany the truths of others, especially those at the margins? What can we become? What can we do to become the listener of many migrant sisters or brothers in our midst? And how can we continue to be that sister or that brother who will understand one another in their situation? Thank you.